welcome to Geula Mamas, your place for everything pregnancy, childbirth, and babies with emunah and a whole lot of love. I'm Sivi Goodman. I'm a midwife, doula, and mama, and I'm very excited and honored to be joined today with Pearl Lopian. Hi, Pearl. How are you? Pearl is originally from the UK. She made Aliyah February of 2017 and has been working as an EFT tapping practitioner for 12 years. She has a private practice and works in person and online. She runs tapping workshops. In addition, she also trains other therapists and professionals to use EFT with their clients. Pearl wants to share this wonderful gift of self-healing as it literally is at your fingertips. This is so exciting. Welcome, Pearl.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you so much.
And welcome to Israel. You're still a pretty newborn, just over your year. My goodness.
It's 2 years next week.
Oh my God, right. We're actually, you see, I'm thinking we're in 2018. 2 years. Okay, great.
Yes.
Are you settling in?
I'm settling in, yes. Yes, it's really been wonderful. Thank you.
Which part of Yerushalayim are you in?
I'm in the German colony area, just off Emek Rafaim.
That is a beautiful area. Wow, how exciting. Baruch Hashem. So, Pearl, I am lucky enough to have a little bit of experience with EFT. But before we even launch into it, could you please help our listeners here? Not everyone knows what EFT is.
Okay, so EFT. It stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It's also known as tapping. Now, there are two parts to it. We have tapping, which is great for self-help, and we also have therapy tapping. So I really want to separate them because they are quite different and they are both amazing. I really feel this is just the most amazing gift that we have. And as we said, literally at our fingertips. You know, it's not very often that we think about what makes us do what we do. For example, as I'm talking to you, my hands are moving all over the place. I don't know what in my brain is activating my hands to do that. I'm picking up a pen. Something else in my brain is picking up that pen. You know, we've got this most amazing body that has so many different functions. We've got a cardiovascular system. We've got a hormone system. What about the mind-body system? Now, that mind-body system would be, just imagine I'm going to my yoga class. I'm very calm. All my pipes, my chi, everything inside me is flowing really well. I'm in a good mood. I'm walking to my yoga class. I get a text. Text is from a friend, but it reminds me of something upsetting that had happened a week earlier, which I really didn't want to think about. But seeing that text reminded me of that thing that I didn't want to think about. My stomach literally started churning. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, something like that. That you're just in a good mood, you hear something, a thought pops into your head, and you start to feel it in your body. Or the other week, well, actually it was a while ago, when I had hardly been driving here, and you know the Waze, I don't know if you use Waze when you're driving. I was wanting to go to Herzliya, and I'm on my own, first time in England in my 50-something years driving here, and the Waze started to make that noise to tell me I'd gone wrong. I couldn't look down, I'm driving. I felt myself getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Mind, body. Something that we don't think about. Now, for some reason, and I really don't know how, tapping on specific points, and there's only 9 points, interrupts the mind-body connection. It's fascinating. So if I'm, even now, for example, I would say I'm slightly nervous. I've never done this kind of thing before. I can feel my chi is a little bit blocked because I have got some slight nervousness going on. So if I tune into my nervousness and notice where I feel it in the body, and I just tap on these points, and I'll go through the points with you if you want to.
Yes, absolutely.
Breaks the mind-body connection, takes the feeling away, and then the thought dissolves.
So that you were saying there was a difference. I've never heard this between tapping and what did you say, therapeutic tapping?
Therapeutic tapping, yes, yes. Because
So which one are you describing now?
What I'm describing now is tapping for self-help. So that's what one can do anytime. It's a brilliant calming down. So whatever's going on, we're feeling it. Moment to moment, we can calm ourselves down by doing the tapping techniques. And I'm happy to go through it with you.
Yeah, I want to go through it. Now, I've used it before. One of my great friends is actually very, very into tapping. So whenever I tell her something that's bothering me, she says, you should tap on it. You should tap on it. So from time to time, I actually listen to her. And sometimes she even walks me through it. But it is a mystery to me of why tapping on these body points would work. And I think you said it, but it was very fast, and I myself didn't quite grasp why would this work?
So as far as I understand it, you know, my understanding of it has come from doing thousands of sessions, and a lot has been anecdotal. Now the evidence is starting to come out that we know that the body has got some magnetic fields going on. There's something going on in the body because we do the EEGs, which is connecting to see what's going on. We're working on the same system as the acupuncture system, and certain points, when we do with the needles, but we're doing it with our fingertips, we're actually sending a message to the amygdala. The amygdala is the part of the brain that controls the stress response. So as we're tapping on these points, something is firing, literally firing at the amygdala and calming us down. Does that make sense?
Is that only for stress? Because EFT can be used for all types of situations, right?
It can be used for all types of situations where we have a body reaction to a thought.
Okay.
Which we only ever feel what we're thinking. So if I'm having a nervous thought, I'll feel nervous. If I'm having an angry thought, I'll feel angry. If I'm having a sad thought, I will feel that sad thought. Very often we're not aware of what's going on in our body as we talk. We're so not. We're just going around our day, and we're really not thinking of what's going on inside.
So what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, is that all these symptoms we would have in the body are a response that are coming through the amygdala from our brain. Our brain is saying there's something wrong, and it's sending some sort of symptom like the subconscious hand movement. So it might be an ache or a pain or an illness or anything, right?
Sure.
But that's coming from our brain.
Sure. So now you've actually segued me, which if I can use that word, is how to explain how we work it therapeutically, because this is where it gets really clever. Now, this is really where it gets clever. And I'll give you an example. And as I talk you through the example, it'll be so obvious, but it's very, very interesting how this works. So an example. I have a client who comes to see me, and he has a lot of anger issues. He gets angry a lot of the time, and it really upsets him that he gets so angry, and he really wants to clear it. And he said, you know what, I particularly get angry. I have my child behind me, and I'm just like, I might just be sitting down, reading the paper, doing whatever, and my child comes behind me and he just hits me on the back like that. And I go into a rage. Okay, now, I use that, and we tap with what he's told me, because what I know, the cleverness, what the tapping does is locates the original time he had a response to that. And that's where it gets clever. So we're tapping with what he's telling me, and as he's telling me, a picture pops into his head. He goes, oh, that picture jumped into my head. I'm in boarding school. And you know what? I was bullied a lot in boarding school, and I've just got an image of myself walking down the corridor, and I'm just walking along, and they're coming from behind, and they've grabbed me from my shoulder, and they've taken me and started to beat me up. So this is what happens. Our body doesn't have a sense of time. Body doesn't do time. So child tapping him over here on his shoulder reminds his body of that original time, and he's responding, his body is responding as if it's happening.
I never thought about that with the mind that the body doesn't have that sense of time. So it's as if it just happened 5 minutes ago and now he's getting attacked again. That really makes so much sense. That's so interesting.
And I've just been reading this amazing book by Edith Egar called The Choice. And she's written about her experiences in the Holocaust. And she says it's so obviously, you know, she's talking about, she went on the bus and she heard a siren on the bus. You know, it was years later after she was out of Auschwitz, she was in America, and she's going on the bus and she heard a siren. And she says, in that minute, she was taken back. Well, that's obvious. But we're triggered all the time without it being so obvious. So this is where the EFT is so clever, because we're just talking about things in the here and now, and it's very rarely about something that's happening in the here and now. Our response is very, very often because of something that's happened earlier. So that's the real cleverness, if that's making sense.
Oh my goodness, this is really exciting, because again, I've used EFT, I've read about EFT and tapping and everything, but I never really understood it. So I just learned so many things now. My brain's sort of spinning. I don't think my friend's going to have to encourage me to do this anymore. It's really interesting. This is cool. So you were saying that for your nervousness right now, as an example, you were going to lead us through a mini EFT session just for yourself that someone could do anytime they wanted to, right?
Okay, yes. So the first thing I would want to do is I would want to rate how nervous I am, because we like to measure, because measuring is good for us. It's really, really good, because if I measure my nervousness as an 8 out of 10, it's usually from 0 to 10. So if I measure my nervousness as an 8, after a couple of rounds, it might have only gone down to a 6. But at least I know it's coming down. So it's a good signal for me, because we tend to forget how nervous I was before, if you know what I mean. So the first thing we want to do is rate how nervous. So for me, how nervous am I right now? I'd go, it's actually, I can still feel that kind of tension in my stomach. I would rate it as a 5 out of 10 right now.
Well, so also with rating, I know for myself that I tend to get very stuck on trying to figure out what number. But I know also with EFT, tell me if I'm wrong here, that you just kind of like be quiet and like just the number that pops in your head, right? Don't get stuck on a number.
You're so right. You're so right. And I often tell my clients, you know, like I'm going to say to you, tell me a color. Tell me
Blue.
a color. Do you see it just popped into your head? Tell me a number.
3.
And now notice the difference if I say to you, what did you have for supper last night? Or what's 47 times 6? Do you notice you have to go into a different brain area?
Absolutely. Also, if someone says, what's your favorite color? Or what's your you have to think, But when you just said, tell me a color, that was so easy. It was like, I can do this. I know this one.
So what I like with my clients is I just like to say, first thing that pops into your head, there's no function for the human brain. The human brain likes to interpret and make meaning of and analyze. There is no function for human brain in EFT. Would you like me to talk a little bit more about the 3 brain areas? Because it's quite interesting.
Yeah. This sounds very interesting.
Okay, so we have the 3 brain areas. So we've got, and I'm going to just say it very simply because I'm not at all medical. So this is just a little bit that I know, and I just share the little bit that I know. We have the croc brain, which is the reptile brain, which is just functioning. It's just doing, it's moving, it's picking things up.
Right, like even a snail has that like a brain stem.
Like a reptile, what does it do? It's moving. Then if you think about the difference between a dog and a reptile, the dog brain. So the dog understands basic commands, fetch, walkies, bone, I don't know, sit. And dogs have emotions. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference between the dog and the reptile. If you were to say to your dog, shall we go for a walk today, or would you rather go tomorrow? They are not going to know what you're on about because they do not have the human brain. The human
We are back. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. So, Pearl, you were just telling us about the dog brain and how a dog, what you couldn't say to a dog, would you like to go out for a walk today, or maybe we should go tomorrow? And just about then we got cut off.
Oh, so, okay, right. So exactly that. You cannot say that. So your dog will not know what you're on about, because the dog does not have a human brain, because the human brain likes to interpret and analyze and make meaning of. There is no function for the human brain in EFT. The healing comes in the dog brain area. So that's why we never want to be thinking when we're actually doing tapping. So back to your question, right at the beginning, when we said we ask for the number, we allow it to pop up. Whatever number pops into the head, as we trust our body knows best.
So we don't want to be overthinking anything.
We don't want to be overthinking. And what's really interesting is that even any questions that I'm asking people in a session, they'll go, well, why did that pop into my head? Like, why did I say that? And it's because they're pulling things out of their subconscious awareness. So it wasn't in their awareness beforehand. So clearly they wouldn't have known why that would have come in. For example, the guy that I spoke about with his feeling the anger, he had no idea that was going to pop in. It was a buried memory.
This is really helpful for me, because as I've been doing the EFT with my friend, I do have these images pop in, and I'm not always sure if I should say something. So I usually end up saying it, and I always feel better. And I say, oh, I just got this image popped into my head, and I never knew that that was the right thing to be doing. So this is very interesting. So you're saying that your brain is, instead of telling you with words, it's telling you with these images.
So a lot of people are different. We all represent our experience differently. So what do I mean by that? Some people are very visual and they get lots of pictures. Some people are very auditory, so they get more thoughts. And some people are much more kinesthetic in their body. And they get feelings in their body more. So when we are tapping, some people will get one of those, or a bit of all of them, but they're going to get something. So not everybody gets pictures. Some people get random thoughts, or some people start to feel it more in their body. So the job of the practitioner is to be very aware of what their client's process is. And that's what we're doing. You know, the mastery of being a practitioner is not about knowing the points. The points which I'm going to go through with you are the 9 points, 8 or 9 points. They're not complicated. The mastery comes with being a little clever detective, is neural pathway from your clients, because you want to know, when did that feeling start? When did that thought start? Where was that initial thought? Where was that initial feeling? That's what we're doing.
I'm just going to go back, because we had a mini break. We're having some very bad Klita issues here today. I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to stop everything. But at least we popped right back, talking about popping. So okay. I think what you were saying was that the 9 points are easy. It's true. In the beginning, I found them overwhelming. Now it's nothing. It just took, whatever, a couple practice tries. It's nothing. I can do it without even thinking about it. But the practitioner, you were saying, is a detective. Can you go over that again?
So the practitioner is wanting. So for example, somebody will say, I have these fears. I have this fear of dying. That's an example. I don't know how other people work as a therapist, because I only know my way. But my way of working was, I want to know that thought came into that person's head in a moment in time. Like, they didn't always have that thought, I'm scared of dying. I want to know when that initial thought popped into their head, because that's the place we want to go to. So that with a clever use of questioning, and that's what I mean about being a bit of a detective, we're kind of asking what we call in the EFT world Columbo questions. And I don't know whoever used to watch television back in the day, there was this detective called Columbo who used to just throw in little, or we call them grandparent questions, like very gentle questioning. We're just trying to help the person find where that thought came from. So even a thought, I'm scared I'm going to die, I'm scared of dying, I want to know, how did that thought pop in? So that's what I'm talking about, being a detective. So we might use those words. I wonder when I first had that thought, I'm scared of dying. I wonder what pops into my head. And that's when the picture or the thought starts to come. Because as we're tapping, not only are we calming this amygdala down, we're also going into a slightly hypnotic state, but at the same time fully alert.
So you're not necessarily, like when I've learned about EFT, there was a very formal structure, but I know sometimes there's just this free ramble, because again, my friend does that from time to time. So you're saying that if you're just doing these points and just talking to yourself, asking yourself where that came from, you might start to get answers without any formal setup.
You might, but I would think that has to be in a therapeutic context with working with someone else. Because if I've got, for example, my fear of speaking in public, which was really strong. I mean, I used to get asked to be in groups and to talk to groups all the time. I mean, for years, and I thought I made every excuse not to go and speak. And then I thought, it's ridiculous. I've got to get over my fear. And I wanted to run groups for years, and I wanted to clear this. Why am I so nervous? I'm in English. Americans love talking, if you don't mind me saying, but that's something I seem to have noticed. But the English we're a little bit more reticent, and I'm particularly would not say a word, and the thought of a group, oh my gosh. So I needed to go to somebody. I mean, when it's things like that, you're going to be working with a practitioner.
I definitely find that even when I've tried to do something myself, when even just working with my friend, I've never actually went to officially a practitioner, although this is sounding very exciting. I might want to do that. But it's so much more powerful, even just with my friend doing it with me, is like a million times more powerful than any time I've done it on my own. Yet it's a great tool to be able to do on your own, because if you're in a situation, like you said, like you're sitting on the bus and you do hear that siren and you panic, to know that you can do something on your own, and you can do it very discreetly in public, right? You don't have to be tapping all over the place, right?
And before I go into that, I just wanted to just give the comparison. Imagine you've got an issue and it's like a tree. So you want to get rid of your tree. Tapping on your own is like taking off tops off the tree, and it's going to come down. 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 Because every time you're tapping, you are connecting to the original time as well. So you are taking it off. But if you go and see a practitioner, you're pulling it out by the roots. So I would use that comparison, because, taking it off the tree, you're going to start to see the blue sky. It's going to be amazing. And it's going, but pull it out by the roots. So I think that's a little bit the difference. And just remind me the second half of the question that you said just now. Sorry,
I don't remember. Oh yes, when you're in public, I know there are ways of tapping, like example, if you're going on the bus and you get afraid of the siren, there are ways of tapping in public that are a little more discreet, right?
Yes. So I'm going to go over all the points, but I do envisage a time when, because this is a gift to the universe, and Hashem's given us this most amazing thing. I think we're going to have a time when nobody's going to feel they need to be discreet about it, because they're going to say, well, I've got an exam and I think I'm just going to go around my points. I'm just going to do a bit of tapping. I do think this is going to be, I've seen various clips on YouTube of athletes doing rounds of tapping before they're about to run, and before. I've seen that a few times. It is going to be common, but at the moment we're still, we're a relatively new concept. So I'm going to go through the points, and then I will talk about the discrete points as well. So would you like me to do on the nervousness? Should we do that as an example?
We can do it. I mean, it can be used on anything. You said best is on feelings that you're feeling it somewhere in your body, right? Like some sort of physical feeling. That's what EFT works best on, right?
Do you know what? I'll give two examples. I'll give an example of me and my nervousness right now. And I'll also give an example of you've just got off the phone from your sister-in-law and you're feeling in a bad mood.
Breathe.
Would that be an egg? Because we could do both those. So that's one's more thoughts, one is more feeling. At the end of the day, they're both the same, but shall I give those two examples? Would that be useful?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I said before, the first thing is we rate it. So for me, I would say I'm not a 5 anymore. I'm probably about a 4 right now.
I'm happy that you feel comfortable with Geula Mamas. Yay!
You can, if you want, to see what it feels like in the body. So it's a very forgiving technique. You don't have to get it perfectly right. The tapping will always work. The more specific, the quicker it is. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now, what we tend to do is we tend to use terminology like I'm angry, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated, I'm sad, I'm nervous. It's actually the wrong terminology, because it's actually I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling sad. It's not who we are. It's not our identity. It's just an emotion that's passing through at that moment. Now, when we tap on the first point, which is the side of the hand, we like to use a balancing statement to remind ourselves that we're just holding that emotion. So I'm going to say, and you've got lots of different balancing statements. It doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to say a few different ones that I like to use, and people will just say what they like. But it's just about reminding ourselves that it's just the emotion that's passing through. Is that okay?
Great.
Right. So I would start by tapping on the side of my hands very gently, and it doesn't matter, right hand, left hand, whatever you want to do. And you want to catch that point that's between the little finger and the wrist. And we also call it making friends with a problem, because if you imagine shaking hands with somebody, you know, you're shaking someone's hand, you're actually touching them in that place. So we're making friends with a problem. We're doing completely the opposite is what we might do with other things, like, oh, no, I shouldn't feel nervous now. What's there to be nervous about? Nothing terrible is going to happen. You know, all these are logical things, but logical isn't where the healing comes from, because I could tell myself to the cows come home, you're a lovely person. What am I nervous of? Nothing could be, what could be the worst? This isn't going to heal me. We're going to a different area to do the healing. So we're starting off at the side of the hand points, and I would say something like, even though I'm feeling nervous right now, and I'm feeling it in my stomach, I accept how I feel. So I would say something like that 3 times. I'm going to do that again. Even though I have this nervousness in my stomach, this is what it is right now. Even though I have this nervousness in my stomach, this is how I feel right now. So now I'm going to go around the rest of the points. I miss out the even though part, and I miss out the M part, and I'm just going to stick with what I'm feeling. So I'm going to go with nervousness in my stomach. And the first point that we tap on is, now I like to do it with both hands because I like a double whammy. It's where the eyebrow starts. So it's
like
just where the eyebrow starts.
So
like,
just
towards the
above
nose. Towards the nose. Just with, I do with 2 fingers on each hand, and I tap 5 to 7 times, and then I'm just saying, I have this nervousness in my stomach. And then I'm going to the side of the eye, this nervousness in my stomach. So the next point is the side of the eye. Now I might like to describe the actual feeling. I would maybe, I'm just thinking how I would even describe it. I think it's a little bit of a twisting feeling. So I'm going to be even more specific, but you don't have to. And I'm just going to say it's a twisting feeling. And now I'm going to the under the eye point, and I'm going to say it's a twisting feeling in my stomach. And then the next point is under the nose, this twisting feeling in my stomach. And then I'm going to the chin, nervousness in my stomach. And now I'm going to just below the collarbone, and I also do that with 2 hands, this nervousness in my stomach. And then the next point is just under the arm, just about where the bra strap is, this nervousness in my stomach. And the next point is top of the head, this nervousness in my stomach. And then we take a breath in and whoosh it out. Okay, so that's really interesting, because I'm surprised myself, actually. It's gone way, way down. It's probably only about a 1. There's still a bit there. Now this is actually what happens sometimes. That's more or less gone, but it's actually moved. And so this is what happens. I would say there's usually 4 things that happen when we tap. The feeling gets better. the feeling gets worse, because it can get worse, because that means we've tuned into something really a bit bigger than we thought. It can move, or it changes in quality. So in other words, if it was a twisting, it might be a churning. But for me, it's actually moved, and that's really interesting, because I don't know what that's about, but it's moved into my whole mouth area, which is interesting. But we'll put that to one side. So that would be a typical round that we could do.
So I was just tapping along and just like thinking about you and, you know, sending good thoughts your way. But even for me, it was just very relaxing, just without even, you know, thinking about it really a lot. Just tapping alone was very calming. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's very calming. And I personally think 5 minutes a day, do 2 rounds, and without even saying any words is great. You don't have to be thinking, okay, what am I bothered about? What am I not bothered about? Maybe just do it silently. Go around the same point silently. Just at the same time, maybe be aware, is there something? Like now I've got something going on in my, I don't know what area even to call it, inside my gums, but I have no idea what it is. I don't know.
So you could continue just tapping and tapping.
I could continue. So I could either do it with words or without.
I've heard at the end of this thing where you, I think they called it closing the gates or something like this. Is that a thing? Or I don't know.
So I'm doing more or less classic EFT, which is how it was originally came from the founder. But there's so many more extra points that are coming out, and there's so many more people doing their own thing. But they're more or less all the same but different, if you know what I mean. People have a lot of add-ons. This top of head points was added on afterwards.
Oh, really?
I wanted to then maybe speak about the second example, which was being annoyed after a phone call, which is quite a good example.
All the time, you know, you're going along your life, like you said, and you're just trying to like be optimistic and like, you know, connect with Hashem and feel great, and then something happens, a phone call, an email or something, and it's like somebody pulled the carpet out from under you. And, everything falls, you know?
Yeah. So I'll do that example about getting off after the phone call. Unless you want to do something you want to do your example.
I was just saying that's the same type of thing as a phone call. These things happen every day. Go for it.
Sure, they do. Okay. So what I would do is I would actually ask myself, how angry am I? So I'd still go with the measure. So I'll say, okay, I'm angry. It's about 9 out of 10 because I'm really angry. So I would do a round like this, even though I'm really, really angry about that phone call. That's just how I feel. Even though I'm really, really angry about that phone call, I accept how I feel. Even though I'm really, really angry, this is what it is. And then as I go around the points, I might just have a rant about how I feel. So I might be going, how dare she speak to me like that? I'm really angry. How could she do that to me? I'm so annoyed. I'm so angry. I'm furious. She had no right to speak to me like that. How could she speak to me like that? She really shouldn't be saying those things. And I would do a second round probably, and I'd just carry on. Just whatever's jumping into my head, just having a good old rant about how I feel. And I would do 2 rounds, going around the points exactly like that. And then at the end of the 2 rounds, take another breath and a long breath out. And then I would just ask myself, what am I feeling now? So I might say, actually, it's not so much anger, it's more frustration. And then I would number my frustration. Okay, it's a 5. And I would do some rounds like that. And probably 2 or 3 rounds, you're down to a 0. So it's not about changing what happened out there, it's about changing how we're perceiving it. And it's very, very effective, because at the end of the day, we just want to feel good inside.
I mean, I could think it would take, 3 days and, a long talk with my girlfriend or so, you know what I mean? Like there's so many, it could take a really long time, or sometimes people don't even get over certain situations that you're saying within a couple minutes on your own in this particular situation. somebody might be able to diffuse. That's amazing.
Yes, and what I'm saying is it's not about liking the situation. So we might not like that it's happened. We don't like it, and it's not about making the situation okay, because it could be that the situation isn't okay. It could be a circumstance that is for sure not okay, but it's about us having peace in our body, because once we have peace in our body, we make much more authentic decisions and authentic choices. So in a situation where it's with somebody else, once I've calmed down, I might decide, well, I'm not going to interact with this person anymore, or I am. But then it's much more of an authentic choice. So often we're kind of in a prison that we can't see clearly. So this is about making clearer choices, making clearer decisions, feeling calmer, feeling better.
Oh, that is so amazing. So I 100% agree with you. How you have the situation, you can't change it. This person on the telephone said what they said. I'm not looking to change them. I'm just trying to say, this is what happened. This is how I feel. The piece where that's where I have my choice. That's where I have my power. How do I feel? I'm feeling maybe my stomach is in a knot, or I'm feeling all hot and stressed and flushed in my ears, or whatever it may be. And, you know, maybe this person has done this to me before and I'm all angry and it's not fair. So if I tap on that part, I can get through to the next stage and have myself completely out of it, so that I can then say, oh, this person just needed to vent, let's say. And I see that, you know, once a year on, I don't know, her mother's yard site, she needs to vent. Oh, I just realized there's a connection. She might be upset about her mother's passing, and maybe I can just handle it when that happens. I don't know. I'm just making that totally up, because now I got myself out of the situation where I couldn't even see it before because I was so upset. My fault. My feelings were so hurt. So it like pulls you back, and it also gives you back your own power. It's not like she made me upset. Now I have the power to be myself again and not have someone else, quote unquote, making me upset. You know, because really nobody can make you upset. My kids will sometimes say, you know, she's humming and that's making me have a headache. And I know the child was humming and I was so happy because my little child was humming and they were so happy and cute. But her brother was getting stressed out and headachy from it. To me, it's so clear. It's just his, you know, again, his problem that was making him upset. The humming was making me happy. There's nothing wrong with the humming originally. So how do we sort that out, you know? I don't want to run out of time. You had mentioned a whole thing with the neshamot and the mother and children. I want to make sure we get into that before we run out of time.
Okay. So I'm just thinking where to begin with this. So there's two things. First of all, what I feel a lot of the work that I do, but this is more really in a therapy session. This isn't self-help tapping. This is in a therapy session. When we're talking about a fear, for example, a fear of falling. I have a fear of falling. When we're going back to the original time, so when I'm asking a person, when did I first have that thought? It usually just pops into their head like an age or a picture. You know, either a number will pop into their head of how old they were or a particular picture. What we then tend to do in the session is we bring up that picture, and it's almost as if the client is having a dialogue with her own neshama in that age. And it's just so wonderful because there's something that's happened in that age that got stuck. And it's sort of this neshama to neshama dialogue that goes on, and we're just repairing, because we know that our neshamas are clear, perfect, but they've just kind of got scratched, got dirty, and we're kind of taking that layer away. Neshamas, humans, we're natural healers. You know, we're always like the plant that's always looking for the sun. You know, give ourselves the optimum place, we will always heal. The minute you get a cut, the healing has already started, because that's what our bodies do. Cut, healing is immediate. Bodies want to heal, bodies are always looking after us, but they just get a little bit caught. So it's like we're having this dialogue with a neshama, and even more than that, what I do, which I think you'll find interesting, is that this has actually only started to occur to me in the last few weeks, because I've been doing a lot of work with mums whose children have anxiety, and I don't meet the children. So an example would be a child who's got lots of fears. So I was working a few days ago over the internet with somebody whose child has a lot of fears. So I did exactly the same with the mum, asking the mum, just asking herself, when can I remember that these fears started? And she, even though her child was 16 now with a lot of fears, she went to a 3-year-old memory of her child falling down and knocking her head. So that popped into her head. She's got no idea why that picture came in, but that's what came in. And then we had a dialogue with mum and this image that came up. So it was almost again like she's talking to the neshama of her daughter. And as she was talking, the mum was realizing that it was actually the mum's fear that had entered the mum when the daughter knocked her head, because the mum started telling me how after that she went to about 3 or 4 doctors to check she'd not done any permanent damage. In that, as we're doing this whole dialogue, the mum's realizing that her fear had stuck onto her daughter. So as she's clearing her daughter's fear, she's clearing her own fear. So it was an amazing realization for the mum, and then the daughter's fears are starting to go. So we're doing some sort of dialogue to the Nile shaman by the mum saying, it was just my fear. It was just my fear, and it got stuck onto you. And I just got a bit scared because you banged your head. And that was just my, and we start doing this whole thing. And the mum's telling the daughter to just calm down, it's okay, it's all okay. And as we're doing that, all the pictures and the memories start to loosen and to just calm down. And it's amazing how that happens. And it's what we're doing is in the EFT on a deeper level is we're contacting the neshama of the person where it's actually got stuck. That's how I've started to see it recently. You know, it's just these new ideas that have come in. It's really a very spiritual experience as well.
So I can see how that would help the mom with her own fear when her child was hurt. But do you see actual results in the child? Did the mom go home and tell the child what happened? Or is it totally separate?
What happens is it just happens because we've contacted the energy of the child just changes. So some examples that I've had where I've never met the child, a mum whose child had a stutter. So I just had 3 sessions with the mum, and we also we just did the tapping with the mum, and I just asked her what memories just popped into her head when she thought about the girl stuttering. And what was really fascinating was that she said, oh, I'll tell you what's just popped into my head. We were all sitting at home one day, and I really don't know why this picture's jumped into my head, but she said, we're all sitting at home one day, and a neighbour comes in with her little girl, and we're all making a fuss of this little girl, her saying, and I'm saying to my little girl, Esty, come and look at this girl, isn't she cute? Isn't she cute? She said, I don't know why, but that's the memory that just popped into my head. So that was the memory that we did, and we tapped away till the memory calmed down. It took about 3 sessions, and about 3 weeks later, the mum phoned me to say she stopped stuttering, but she wanted to wait until it had gone completely till she rang me. Now, the fascinating thing for me in all of this was that she said that she'd stopped stuttering more or less immediately, and then 2 weeks later they were out somewhere and they happened to see that same little girl, and that evening her daughter started to stutter again. Just for an hour or so. So I've no idea, it means that we went to the right place, because often I don't know, people bring up all images and memories and we don't know where it's going to go in a session, but quite clearly we reached something which was correct. So, but what I'm wanting to say is that the daughter changed. I never met the daughter, and that's something that will happen. I'm dealing with anxious children. The child is calmer, and it's something that we're working with communication is happening not through the verbal sense, it's happening through an energy sense. And that's really all I can say about it.
So I feel like there are two pieces here, and I have a little bit of experience enough to sort of touch on what you're saying, that I feel like what you're saying really is valid and not completely out there. So the first piece is talking to myself, my own self as a little girl, right? That was the first piece, not my child's neshama, but me, let's say when I was 5. And that reminds me of something called Gestalt therapy. Do you familiar with that? Is that kind of what we're talking about? Sort of mixing that with EFT? Where you take like your younger self, you put yourself on your lap and you have this conversation with them. Okay. So that for sure, we know that's proven. I mean, that is a thing. So if you're combining that with EFT, you're just boosting the power there. Now, the second piece is I used to learn in Midrash Emunah, I learned something called the Sheffer method. So basically it was, like there's Freud and there's Adler, two schools of thought. And then there was this from woman called Geula Sheffer, and she took Adler's teaching. She learned, I think, directly from him, and she mixed that with Torah, and she basically made her own sort of thing. And then her disciples made this into a more bigger thing. So I had learned from one of her disciples. So it's a very similar idea. There's no tapping involved, but you're looking at a situation where my child is, I'll just give you an example. One of the moms was saying, my child keeps taking her pretzels and just exploding the whole little baggie that I gave her all over the floor. And so you sort of diagnose, well, that child is trying to get my attention, and she's getting my attention by throwing these pretzels all over the floor. So you back up a little bit and you say, well, if pretzels fell on the floor, would I get emotional? Would I get upset? I would just sweep it up. So then the mom says, okay, so next time she spills the pretzels on the floor, can you just sweep it up? It has no emotion, no giving her any attention about it. Just sweep it up. And it doesn't even matter if it happens, or it probably will never happen, because the mom backed out of it, divorced herself from the emotion, figured out where it was coming from, and then she's not emotionally involved anymore. And what almost always would happen is the mom would come back and say, my child never spilled pretzels on the floor after that. She just never did it anymore, because the mom had diffused it in class. Yeah. So it reminds me exactly what you're saying, but again, you're boosting it with the power of the EFT.
You've reminded me of another example in one of my courses, where one of the exercises to try the tapping outs for people to start practicing with each other is think of something small that bothers you day to day. So one of the people did on her daughter's messy bedroom. Because she said, it really bothers me that my daughter has a messy bedroom. She said she's never, ever tidies her room, ever, ever, ever. So she just did about, it was the two people practicing. So it wasn't even me doing it with someone. They were in twos and they were practicing with each other. And she was doing, even though my daughter's got a messy bedroom, that's what it is. And we just said, my daughter's messy bedroom, and it really bugs me. I think she did maybe 3 or 4 rounds. She felt much, much calmer at the end. Now, I think you can guess what I'm going to tell you, because next day her daughter says, Mum, you'll never guess what. And she calls her and she goes to her room, and she said she tidied up her whole bedroom. And this person was freaked out, because she didn't really understand how could that be, because she's sitting in my home tapping on herself for her daughter's messy bedroom, how she felt about it. And there's her daughter tidying the bed. We don't understand. There's so much more that we don't know. We just don't know all these. It's fascinating. It's totally fascinating.
That's amazing. And it must be, we're so lucky to live in a time period that there is so many crazy things going on in the world, but there's so much kedusha. There's so much opening of these amazing, just nisim, amazing, miraculous things that Hashem has made in our bodies, in our neshamas, in our connection. The healing, and just, it's an amazing time to be around. So thank you, Hashem, for that. Wow. Before we go, I don't want to go, I want to keep talking, but is there anything that I forgot that you want to make sure to share with us before we get going here?
I just want to make sure that people understand that it's a very easy technique that you can do anytime. It takes a few minutes. You cannot get it wrong. Don't worry about the words. And I just want to help people understand that we're doing the opposite of what we do with most things. We're actually tapping on negative words. So we're not pushing away the problem. We're allowing the problem in. So back to that original example of being angry about a phone call, we're not going to say, I'm going to be calm, I must be calm, it wasn't so important. We are not doing that. We're doing just the opposite. I am angry, I'm really angry. We are not making ourselves more angry by saying the negative, because a lot of people do ask me that. Am I putting it into me that I'm going to be angry? No. We are balancing out the energy in response to the thought. So we are taking the thought, we're saying it, and then we're testing. We are not going to make ourselves worse, and we do use the negative words. So I think that's important to understand.
It's extremely important, and I have had that question before, so I'm happy that you brought it up. From what you're saying, it sounds like we're sort of validating our feelings. I was angry anyways, right? And to say, oh, well, you shouldn't be angry, well, that doesn't help me feel better. So you're saying, yeah, I'm angry. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. You can be angry. That was hard. Like, you're just validating, and then you can like, oh, yeah, that was hard, and to sort of move through it to the next level then.
Yes, and the tapping does the work as well. So just saying it is great, but doing the tapping is really clearing it out of the body.
I know what we forgot. We were talking about, because we haven't gotten to the point where we can just tap openly on the bus or on the street yet. How can we tap discreetly?
Okay, there's a couple of ways. The ways that I would suggest is use the finger points. So I don't know if you can see, just squeezing on the side of the fingers. So we can squeeze. I think that's the best one, is squeezing.
Start with the thumb.
So you can start with a thumb. And you just take a breath on each point. So you want to be squeezing the side of the nail beds on each one, because these are good acupuncture points. So it's just about squeezing each finger, just very gently.
You squeeze and release?
Squeeze and breathe. So it's not, this isn't a tapping movement. This is a squeeze, squeeze movement. I would say we take a short breath in and a breath out on each one.
So one squeeze with a breath. And then move to the next finger.
Yeah. This is a great calming down technique. This is really, even without words, just tuning into where the body's got that blockage. It's only like these pipes in ourselves. We're just seeing where's my pipe blocked? Okay, so it's still in that area that I had it before. And just go around. So that's one choice. It's just gently squeezing the finger points. Then you can just, wherever you are, you can always tap on the side of your hand. You can usually do that under a table somewhere. That's one idea. Or you just tap on the finger points.
So like on the tips.
So it's usually doing the hand points. So it'd be one. So those are three ways of doing the hand points. So I'm just tapping with fingers on the points. So then I'm going to the next point, then I'm going to the next point, and then I'm going to the next point.
That takes some coordination.
I know. But you get used to it. It's that one side of hand point you can do.
I like the squeezy one. When I finished one hand, my other hand was like, that's comfy. You should do that for me. So I switched to the other hand. It's very relaxing. This is nice. And I see, we haven't officially spoken about pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum, but I mean, this is for life. This is anytime. I imagine someone saying, I'm afraid of labor, childbirth. Well, when did that idea first come to me? Oh, I was, 12 years old. And, I mean, like, you could just go into that and pull things out really quickly.
I mean, I've had a couple of examples where one person's labors were 20 hours and she was about to have her fifth baby. And I said, you're such a relaxed person. What's going on here that you're having such long labors? Why don't you come for an EFT session? And she was quite skeptical. But after her session, It went down from 20 hours to 6 minutes after she got to hospital. She gave birth in 6 minutes. And that's because we cleared the blockage. And another one who had 4 cesarean sections and she wanted to have a natural birth, also natural birth. And various other, you know, sometimes people have got fears because of memories of past labours. EFT is exceedingly efficient at working with that, clearing
your own past labors. And then people love to tell you horror stories. You know, you get people will talk in front of children, first of all, which I have a big issue with. But the second you're pregnant, they're like, oh, you should hear this horror story that happened to me. And then the next Yenta says, oh no, my horror story was way worse than that. And you have to like run around with earmuffs or somehow, you know, clear that out. Yeah. I know that our body does these things to protect us, right? Like our body will say, we're going to have, you know, this 20-hour labor because somehow it's trying to protect us from something. So, or the stomach pain or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me that you're saying when you just bring it up and you clear it, then your body's like, oh, we're good now. Like the danger's gone.
Yeah. So, and if there's an earlier experience that has been quite traumatic,
sure,
that means we're triggered to it. So that's what we want to clear. When we're doing the tapping, we're taking those traumatic memories and putting them in a healthier part of the brain. We're literally filing. It's like a document that got filed in the wrong filing cabinet. We're just taking it out and putting it back somewhere else, more healthy.
Going back to what you said in the beginning, if our brain doesn't have a sense of time, then it doesn't know that, okay, this situation happened, but there were reasons for it, and it has no effect on what's happening now. To the brain, it's like, well, this happened 5 minutes ago, so we're still dealing with that same situation. That's so interesting. All right. Would you like to tell us, please, because as much as I'm sure you would love to treat all of Am Yisrael, you're only one person, as you were saying, and you have this amazing training program you're doing, right?
Yes. So because I'm only one person and EFT is the therapy of the future, there are very few EFT therapists in Israel, and I am privileged to be one of the only English-speaking therapists in the country. So I'm running courses here. My next course is in Jerusalem, but I'll be doing courses all over the place. And all of the mums from your organization, anybody who comes from this, who mentions you, will get 10%.
Geula Mamas. If you mention Geula Mamas.
If you mention Geula Mamas, you're going to get 10% off my next training course.
Oh wow, that is really amazing. Now this is a big course. I mean, somebody would be like, is there a certification to do EFT?
Yes, EFT consists of level 1 and level 2, and then there is practice. It doesn't take a lot of learning, but it takes a lot of practice. So the formal learning is only done over 4 days, 2 days and 2 days. So level 1 is 2 days, level 2 is 2 days. That doesn't take that long, the formal learning, but then it takes a lot of practice. So for people who want certification, they're going to want to do their 50 hours of sessions and keep some good notes, and then they will have an evaluation afterwards. It depends on what people want. Some people are therapists who just want an add-on to what they're doing, and they're not after certification and of any sort, but just want to do the course. They can come and do the course. Some people find level 1 is enough.
Okay.
There's a lot of options.
Now you do treatments virtually, like the way we're talking today, but not the course, right? The course you're doing in person, the training course?
The course is going to be in person because it's a very experiential course. So I teach the technique, and then people will go off and practice it in twos. One will be the client, one will be the helper, and then they swap. So it's quite difficult to run that online. So that's going to be at the moment in person. Who knows for the future? But at the moment it's in person. That's going to be like that.
Wow. And we also have a giveaway. In a few minutes, we're going to be choosing one lucky Geula Mama. We're going to pick her name from our mug here, and she's getting a free session with you, right? Amazing.
Yes, what I do is...
I need to put my name in this mug.
Well, what I'm going to do in that session with whoever the lucky winner is I do scripts with my clients. So quite often we see what's bothering and then I write a script for them, which is their homework. Because by saying the script once a day for a few days, things start to move around. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, which I can go into, but I think not for now, because I think I've spoken plenty. But in this giveaway, it's a 30-minute session with a script.
And the script is also like an EFT tapping script?
The script will be saying the points and what to say on each point.
Oh, wow. And it's personalized for the person. Wow. That is really, really special. So before we go into the giveaways, because of course I have my Geula Mamas magnets, we're going to repeat everyone who would like to become a practitioner of EFT can contact Pearl. We're going to put all your information in the show notes, but if you can also just shout out your contact information. How do they reach you? Either for a session or to train.
I always like Facebook. Find me on Facebook, Pearl Lopian, and you can email me on tapwithpearl@gmail.com.
Okay. So Pearl Lopian, PearlLopian, right?
Correct.
On Facebook or tapwithpearl@gmail.com. Great. Okay, and again, that will be in the show notes. So now, Pearl, I think you're going to be great at this because I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. You can tap. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me the first thing that pops into your mind now.
Okay.
So imagine that you are standing at Har Sinai, and you are facing all the women of Am Yisrael before you. All the neshamot that have been, that will be, all the women of Am Yisrael are just joined together in a beautiful, beautiful sea of amazing neshamot before you. And now it is your turn. Pearl is standing up to speak before us. And you have one thing to say to these beautiful women. What pops into your mind?
So what pops into my mind is that we're all equal. We're just all equal. No one is better than anyone else. We are just, in our essence, we are all perfect and we're all equal. And just sending the love. I
have to absorb that for a moment. So
we're all equal. I just think that, we spend a lot of our time comparing. We're just all equal. No one is better than anyone else in God's eyes, and it should be in our own eyes as well. If we look at other people, they're better than us, they've got more money than us, they're this more than us. We're all equal in God's eyes.
And we're all all of us, we're on the same team, right? We're all together. That's amazing. It's a really good reminder. Thank you, Pearl.
Thank you.
All right, so now, all right, whoever wins this, I want you to know, I have to put my name in each and every time. I want to win a session. Okay, so some of the people on our Facebook group are actually also practitioners who have been on the show. And I thought, should I put the practitioner's name in? And I thought, you know what, why not? I mean, we're all equal. We all deserve to have great experiences and to share, with each other. So our very first show, the very first Geula Mamas show that went up was an amazing interview with Ayelet Shwell. Pearl, you know Ayelet, right? Exactly. So she just won a free session with you. So I think she's going to be very happy with that. And it's exactly what you're saying. Ayelet helps you, helps me, helps everyone. And now you're going to be able to give her a free script. And when we recorded that show, her family was sick. Her husband was trying to deal with everyone, and he was sick, and the kids were sick, and she's a person just like everyone else with amazing talents and amazing gifts. So this is for Ayelet, 30-minute session with Pearl and a personalized script. Yay, Yellet. And now I'm grabbing my Geula Mamas magnets here. All right. So we have a Geula Mama magnet from Devora Kerr. And she said, don't run away from challenge, embrace it. It's here to give you a present. That's what Devora Kerr said for us. And this is going to, let's see. All right. Rachel Mindick. Yay, Rachel. This is for you. And we're going to be sending those out snail mail. I actually wrap them up in wrapping paper. I just got new Geula Mamas wrapping paper. It's so fun. And this is a Geula Mamas affirmation magnet. It says, I am so precious. Hashem loves me more than I can ever imagine. And that is true. And I want you to remember that. So this is going out to Kathleen Ruka. Last names are hard. Kathleen Ruvakava, maybe. People have to forgive me on last names. Last names are challenging. But Kathleen I got. So yay, Kathleen. Well done. And that is a show. And I want you to remember that Hashem loves you. And I love you. And have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.